back to a funny time when some members of the Deaf Club and I took our 4x4 trucks out for a weekend. It was a Friday and Saturday, and it was beautiful with the trees and the creek and all the animals that we saw. It was great. It was really interesting because on the mountain there was a train tracks, and there was a tunnel through the mountain that had these train tracks on it. And the train tracks had trains going on them for about 4 or 5 years. But because of the rough weather on the train tracks, they decided to not allow trains to go on the tracks anymore. So you're able to go through the tunnel and look up and see the top of the mountains, and then look down and see the creek, and it's just really pretty. You have to be careful though, because if you fall, that would be a very long, dangerous fall. Well, we looked around for a little bit, and we had to go home because my husband had to work that night. We really wish we could have stayed with our friends, but unfortunately we had to go home, so my husband and friend and I left. As we headed home, we were really enjoying ourselves, cranking the music up and just having a good time. But all of a sudden, the car just rolled to a halt. And we were trying to figure out what happened. So we got out of the car and lifted the hood up, started checking all the parts of the car, and it all looked fine. And so finally, my husband checked the battery, and we realized that's where the problem was because there was no water in it. So he went to the trunk of the car and found a cup, and luckily it had just rained, so there were water puddles on the ground, and we were able to take advantage of there being so much water around. So we scooped up some water and poured it into the battery, got back into the car, and crossed our fingers that the car would start, because town was really far ahead of us, and we were not close to our friends either, and we were kind of worried about bears at this point. So we filled up the battery, got back in the car, crossed our fingers, and luckily the car started. So we took off again and enjoyed ourselves, chatted, turned up the music, but again the car just stopped and rolled to a halt. And so we got out again and checked everything, and it still looked fine except for the battery. It was empty, and so we realized there was a hole in the bottom of it. And I kind of blamed myself for this because we'd gone up in the mountains, and I bet that they got a hole in the bottom of the battery because of all of the bouncing and jolting. We just poked a hole in the bottom of the battery. So we got back in the car and trying to figure out what to do. My husband pulled out some chewing gum and offered it to me and my friend. So we all started chewing the gum, trying to think what to do. And he offered us some more gum, and thought it was weird, but we took it anyway. So we were chewing the gum, and I decided I had enough of this, so I took out the gum and threw it away, but my husband told me not to and to give it to him instead. And I was thinking this was a little weird considering it was chewed already, but I gave it to him, and my friend gave him her gum too. My husband got out of the car and lifted up the hood and pulled out the battery and made the gum into a ball and stuck it to the bottom of the battery where the hole was. And I realized how smart that was, because it stuck there and clogged the hole. So we put the battery back, filled it up with water, got back in the car, crossed our fingers, and luckily the car started again. And we got all the way home without having any more problems.